Hey y'all, and welcome back to the channel. This week I'm doing a holiday Q&A. I picked about 12 questions that I tend to get asked a lot, and I just decided I was going to answer them in the video, and that was easier than repeating myself 100 times. So let's get on with it, shall we? The first question I get asked a lot is, how many fish do you have in total? And right now I have 33, I think. That is counting the betta fish as well, and the tetra community, but I think I have about 33. Another question I get asked a lot is, how do I grow my fish so big? And I did a video about this, but just an overview. Yeah, I feed them twice a day, a variety of different foods, and they get weekly 80 to 100% water changes. And it also depends on the temperature and their genetics as well. If they're, stunted, then they're not going to grow. I have one fish in particular. She's my red and white butterfly. She is stunted, and no matter what I do, she just isn't getting bigger, and I don't think that I'll ever get her any bigger than she is, but it happens. Sometimes it just depends on the fish. What is my water change schedule? On Wednesdays, the butterfly tank and the 40-gallon breeder get water changes. On Thursday, both of the betta fish get water changes. On Sunday, the Ranchu and my other 60-gallon tank that houses Josephine, Malachi, Z, and Eli, they also get it on Sunday. And the tetras get their water change about every other week. On any random day. So I don't do them all on one day, because that would take me forever, and I don't have the time just to do it all on one day. It's easier for me if I split it up. So generally it's Wednesday, Thursday, and Sunday most of the time, and Friday I might do one if I didn't have time the day before. Then I do it then, but most of the time that's the schedule. Where do you get your fish? So most of them came from local stores. Night, Josephine, Malachi, Z, Spike, they came from PetSmart. And let's see, Flame, my betta fish, came from a local store. Mystic came from Petco about 60 miles north of me when I went to get my 40-gallon breeders. Comet and Lucy came from a local store north of me, family-owned store. And the butterflies and king chubs, one of my Ranchu, came from Cheyenne Goldfish in California. Precious, my red Ranchu, came from East Coast Ranchu, from Cynthia. So most of them actually are local stores. Even my fantails, Eli and Ellie, they came from my local store as well. Not all of them are show quality, but I'm not into that. I'm not showing them really right now, and they all have their own personality, and I think if I ever did show any of my fish, it would probably be Night. He's a good red Aranda. His head growth, his wind looks good, and overall he's got good balance. I might show him. as far as the Ranchu, I may end up showing them. I don't know. It depends, but they're not all show quality. Just because, I get them here. Some of my stores do have good fish, but that could change at any given minute. I could go in today and, they have awful fish, and then next week they have good fish. You never know with their shipments. But they're not all very expensive fish. Knight, the one I just talked about, I gave $7 for him. And he's an excellent fish. So, you don't have to pay hundreds of dollars to get good fish. You just have to have an eye, for a good fish in the store and, groom them well. Another question I get is, what do you feed and how often do you feed? I feed twice a day, every day, mornings and evenings, and they get a variety. I feed a pellet once a day, and I feed a gel food once a day. So pellet can be Japanese fish food, everyday balance, or growth recipe, or it can be New Life Spectrum goldfish formula, and every now and then I feed Fluval Bug Bites goldfish formula. As for gel food, I either feed Repashy Super Gold or Repashy Soylent Green. So again, usually it's a pellet in the morning when I'm usually in a hurry and need to leave or go to school or whatever, and then in the evening is when they get their gel food. This is a really weird question, but I do get this a lot. Is your water bill high? It varies. Like if I need to do an extra water change or something, it doesn't change that much. But since I've had the fish, I think all 7 tanks, I think my water bill's gone up like $40 or something. I guess people thought that it would be like outrageous because I do all these water changes, but it's really not. But it depends on your water, who's supplying your water. Like I'm on city water, but it's really not a huge deal. I also get asked, is keeping all these fish expensive? And it is not cheap. All their food, you start adding that up. Monthly, I'm probably spending at least $20, if not 30. Generally, I can get Jappies, and I will get probably a good 2 months out of it. And Repashy, I can last about 2 months as well, feeding once a day. That's why I have the schedule that I have. As far as the water, I've already talked about that. Electricity isn't really expensive. All my filters are really, really good, and they don't use that much juice, even the lights, so there's not really been a change in the electric. But as far as feeding them and keeping, prime and the water conditioner and that kind of stuff, it does, in the long run, it does get expensive. You have to buy the aquarium and all that. But, mostly it's time consuming. I have to put forth the effort to take care of all these fish and feed them twice a day because nobody helps me. It's just me. My parents don't help me. They informed me when I started to get back into fish keeping that, it was my thing. I was taking care of the fish. I was paying for the fish. I was keeping up with them. The tanks were to be cleaned, and it was all on me. And it still is. I've never gotten help. Just me. So, time consuming more than really costly. To have to sit down and do all the numbers. But, it's not cheap, but it's not like gonna put me in bankruptcy or anything. Somebody saw on my Instagram that I have cats, and they actually, in last week's video I showed you the cats. Somebody really wanted to know if they were mine. Yes, and they wanted to know their story. So Garfield was the first cat that we got. He is the orange one. His name is perfect for him. We've had him about 8 years. He was a stray that wandered up to the other house, to our previous home. My mom started feeding him because she couldn't stand to see any animal go hungry. We had him there a few years, and when we moved, he jumped in my dad's truck and came with us. So he just became the family, and he's about, I think the vet estimates him being about 11 years old. He is both indoor and outdoor. He goes as he pleases. He does not leave the yard generally, and he pretty much eats and sleeps, and that's pretty much all he wants to do. So he's not super energetic or anything. The other one that I have is Alex. Alex is about 7 years old. I've had him for 4 years. He was originally my neighbor's cat, but he took up with Garfield, and they have been best buds pretty much ever since. He lived on my back deck for a long time. We ended up feeding him because we thought he was a stray. Turns out several years later, my neighbor saw him on the back porch and came over, and turns out he was actually her cat. She thought that he had passed away because she hadn't seen him for so long. Turns out he had just taken up with us. But she ended up moving and she let me have him, so he's been around. He is also an indoor and outdoor cat. He goes as he pleases. For the most part, they get along. Unless Alex gets in Garfield's bed, then they will fight. But other than that, they're usually pretty good considering they're two male cats. I was asked recently by someone who had lost their fish, what I do when I lose a fish, and I don't flush them. Some people do that, and I don't do that. Some people throw them in the trash. It really depends on you, but for me, I bury them. I have a section outside beside the house where our fence starts that I've put like concrete blocks around, decorative. They're not just concrete blocks, but I mean it looks nice. And that's where I bury the fish. They get their own little stone. My dad engraves their name, and I bury them that way. That's usually how I do it. Beauty was the last one that passed away with me, and she has her own little spot outside, and hopefully in the spring I can plant flowers out there, but right now that's not happening because it's like 10 degrees and snow and ice, so not right now, but eventually it will happen. So in my Instagram pictures and as well on this channel, people have saw my artwork, and I never really explained it. So people saw this in the background and wanted to know what on earth it was. So this is Charlie. He normally has this on, but because it's the holidays, I stole it from him today. But I made him my junior year of high school in Spanish class, and it was around Christmas, and we were supposed to make a piñata. The last 2 weeks of class we worked on it, and I ended up making a snowman. We had to get I don't know what it's called, but it's like streamers and like the tissue paper type thing, and cut them in squares, and I had to literally if you can see this, I don't know if you can see this real well, every piece of this, okay, is the size of a pencil eraser. Every piece of that is the size of a pencil eraser, and I did that by hand, all of it. So all of it, all the way around, was me. I spent a whole lot of time on him, and I got 100%. I got A+, but I spent about 15 hours doing that. So there was no way that I was throwing him away, because it took forever. So he's usually in here, so he usually creeps into the camera frame sometimes, but that's why he's in here. I didn't want to put him in a closet because I thought he would get smushed and It just took me a really long time. Also, people have been asking me about the sun. And this was my senior year final art project. This thing is huge if you can't tell. But we had a student teacher, and they were supposed to teach about a week to get their student teaching in or whatever. And she came up with a glorious, wonderful idea to do this. We were supposed to cut out newspaper and cut out magazine paper and create something with it. And we had to roll it, okay? So every single piece of this, it literally took me. She didn't understand how long this would take. She thought this would take about 5 class periods and we would be done. No, this took a freaking month to do. I spent over 30 hours doing this thing, and there is no way that I'm throwing it away. So I had to go through magazines and find blue paper, cut them out, roll them up, and then hot glue them to the back of this thing, okay? And then I had to go through and find yellow ones and do all of this. So this took so long, okay? So we actually got them, they were on display at the school for about a month, and then the last day of school she let us take them home, my actual art teacher. Some people threw them away because they were so tired of fooling with them, but it literally took me so long to do that, there was no way that I was throwing that away. But that's what they are. I'm not crazy. That's like the only 2 art projects I've kept my entire career of going to school, so that's it. I get this a lot too. What does your family think about your fish hobby? Actually, they like it. My mom and dad tend to get a little fussy when I say I'm getting another aquarium. But, you know, as far as the fish themselves, they enjoy watching them, and, you know, they're always the center of attention when we have family or friends over. My family regularly asks me about the fish, and on my personal Facebook, all my family, you know, wants me to post pictures of the fish because they want to see them. And then when they come here in person, they have to see them again. So they actually really like the fish. I've never had trouble out of them from it. Some people think I'm weird because I have so many, but, you know, I'm the one that takes care of them, not them. Last question I get a lot is what water changer I use. And a lot of people use the Python. I do not have the Python. I have the Aqueon water changer. I've never had the Python, so I can't really tell you anything about it. But the Aqueon I actually got because my local store was having a sale, and they were getting ready to have a new shipment in, so they were trying to get rid of some stuff to make room for the new shipment. And they had the Python and the Aqueon for sale. The Aqueon was like $30 cheaper than the Python, and I ended up getting it for like $35, 40 bucks. So I was like, yep, that looks good to me, I'll take that one. So it was mostly because I got it on sale. But it works fine. I've never had an issue with it at all. So I think it's a pretty, you know, it does what it's supposed to do. So I'm happy with it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and Merry Christmas to you guys, and Happy Holidays, and enjoy your family and friends this year, and I'll see y'all next time.